Workplaces are getting dehumanized. We need to, as leaders, rehumanize, dehumanize work cultures. So stay tuned to the Something New show to learn how.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us today on the Something New show. I'm Mindy Linscomb, your host, and we are here to learn how to live a life worth celebrating. And we have a special guest here with us in the studio, Dr. Travis Hearne. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I was going to say, I know you probably don't want me to use that doctor, but you worked really hard for it.
Yeah, I would tell people all the time, like the doctor, yes, I worked hard for it, but if anybody has any medical emergencies, please call 911, because there's not really much I can do about that.
Okay, what's your doctorate in?
So it's an organizational change in leadership. So I can prescribe organizational change in leadership, and so that's kind of where
about
the extent of my doctoral abilities.
Well, and that's not too small because you're having a big impact. I want to read your bio here. Dr. Travis Hearne is a Marine Corps combat veteran, speaker, author, executive coach, organizational consultant, entrepreneur, father, husband, and most of all, lover of Christ. Travis has spent his last 16 years empowering leaders and organizations of all sizes to live out their potential and to push themselves beyond what they thought possible. As the CEO and founder of the Titanium Consulting Group, Travis travels around the globe talking about living a holistically healthy life, which includes spiritual, emotional, mental, financial, and physical health. He and his awesome wife, Traci, who I know and I'm friends with in real life, she's incredible, have 3 boys and they live here in Colorado Springs. And he also has a podcast called Through the Storm with a book coming out this fall. And this is your 4th book. So really excited to read Through the Storm. But we're gonna dive deeper into your most recent book that's already out called Hybrid in a little bit. But what I think is so cool, and I've known you guys kind of over the years from afar, and then sometimes gotten to have deeper conversations with your wife and everything, just using that military background to now inject a lot of those lessons into big corporations and leadership. So I just want to hear a little bit about your military career, and when did you exit out of that and say, I want to go hardcore into organizational health?
Yeah, so I was in the military, I was in the Marine Corps from 2006 to 2016. So deployments to Iraq in 2008, 2009, then Afghanistan in 2010. And
thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I do. And when you're inundated in that kind of an environment, you really see what leadership is capable of, what leaders are capable of. And when you're in combat, it's the full spectrum of leadership, where bad leadership could lead to loss of life, and great leadership can save lives. And when I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, and so that whole spectrum is what really, it led me to pour in. I have to make sure leaders understand that the way that they lead their people and the way that they lead themselves truly matters. And it's not only does it matter, but it's probably the biggest deal ever. So that my military career, I just knew that, when I get out, I'm gonna do as much studying as I can to be able to learn as much as I can to be able to pour into people who are leading teams, who are in positions of power, in positions of influence, to be able to help them to understand that leading a holistically healthy life and leading in a holistically healthy way will save lives, or it could end in the other way.
I was going to say, have you ever seen some tragedy there on the field with it leading the other way?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. In Afghanistan, we lost 3 Marines. And a lot of it didn't have to do with leadership, but I mean, when you think about the men that were leading those Marines that died, Corporal Jacob Light's my memory bracelet I have right here, and his leader, and this is a story of Jacob's actual leader. His name's John.
Wait, so this bracelet you're wearing is in memory of one of your guys?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, he was killed in Afghanistan in 2010, 3 days after my birthday. So we celebrated my birthday. Funny story. And so funny story. Jacob brought me a MRE pound cake, which, if those of you who are not familiar with an MRE pound cake, it's this big. It's the size of a hockey puck, and it tastes just about the same. And he put in mustard 27 on it because it was my 27th birthday, and he handed it to me, and then he went out on his operation that ended up taking his life. And his leader, his platoon commander, is one of the finest leaders I know. He has saved so many lives throughout his military career. He did a more than 20-year military career. He just retired. But talking to him about that day was just, he was heartbroken. And what I think attributed to saving lives after that was the way that he handled the death of Jacob and the way that he led his Marines after that, in a way that was, I mean, he tells a story that when Jacob died that night, he came back into the tent where they were all staying, and all of his guys were, I mean, as you can imagine, the heads were down, they were kicking, some of them were kicking things, some of them were crying, some of them were just stone-faced.
Totally devastated.
Totally devastated. And
it changes the environment once you lose a team member.
Oh my gosh,
like,
absolutely.
It's like, okay, now this is real.
It's real. Like that we're here, and we'd only been in country for about a month. So it was like he was the first casualty. And it was just like, okay, man, this is real. These are young kids too. These are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that are experiencing this. So the first thing he did, and I love this story, is he told them all, like, stand up, get over here, put your arm around each other. We're gonna pray this out. We're just gonna pray. We're gonna pray for Jacob's family. We're gonna pray for him, and that's what we're gonna do. And they did. And the way he describes it is like it's just like the pressure just left the room. It left the tent, and it was just like everybody could breathe. They could think again, and they really started, and that kind of changed the tone of his platoon's deployment after that. So that is how good leadership can save lives. Really knowing your people and digging in to how they need to be.
Well, and it's also kind of encouraging to know that there's freedom in the military to implement your faith and your values and prayer. I mean, you don't always know, especially as an outsider, how free are you to be active in your faith. Yeah,
and it's in those kind of situations when you're deployed, when you're in the middle of nowhere, Afghanistan, it's a lot easier than it is back home. But we had a chaplain that was attached to us who became a really close friend of mine. And it's really encouraged to be able to, if you have a faith background, to explore that, because we're doing things that not many people do, in a different kind of environment than anyone's ever been in. The stresses are different. It's just a weird environment to be in. So if you have faith, lean into your faith. You can Google military speeches in Afghanistan, and a lot of them you'll hear the platoon commanders or the battalion commanders or whatever the leader is talking about faith, getting right with your God, talking about, hey, lean into whatever you have right now, because we're going to go do something extraordinary.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you just recently interviewed on your podcast, right? Somebody pretty incredible. Who did you recently interview?
Yeah, we had General Petraeus on the podcast.
Okay, and for those of us that are not military astute here, please tell us who that is and why that's such a big deal.
So General Petraeus, he's probably one of the greatest strategic minds of our time. Like he is going to go down as one of the greatest leaders of all time. So he was in charge of Iraq when I was in Iraq. So he was the general officer in charge of Iraq. He was then in charge of Afghanistan, and then he was then he led the CIA. He was the director of the CIA for a couple of years as well. So he is, if you Google General David Petraeus, he's probably one of the most accomplished leaders, military leaders of our time. And the things, but the cool things were that what he had to say on that podcast were, yes, there were a lot of military things, but like what he talked about that made the most impact on me was the things outside of that, and how he chose to lead his people. Whether it's big unit leadership when you're leading people that are spread throughout different countries, or whether it's a small team, the leadership lessons that he's learned and he was able to articulate during that were phenomenal. It's just like you have to be a good teammate whether you're leading or not. You need to be able to, like, he talked about luck a lot. He's like, some people tell me I've been lucky. This is kind of his quote. Some people tell me I've been lucky throughout my career to be able to do all these things. And he's like, luck is only when opportunity meets preparation. Like there's luck is involved, but you have to be prepared to be able to take advantage of whatever opportunities come your way, and that equals luck. So some of the things that he was able to.
I want to go listen.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, well, I'm definitely going to go back through the Storm podcast and go listen to that recent interview. That's already out, right?
Oh yeah, it's out.
Okay,
it's
good.
Out.
Okay, so now passing over to, like, you get home from military, you are a dad, 3 boys, it's super busy, still career, married. One of the things you love talking about is having a balanced life. And so I think that's very important for our audience, is to learn from people modeling that in the way you guys are. Like, what are some things that you would say, hey, this is how you fight for and maintain that work-life balance?
Yeah, the work-life balance, especially when we're, raising kids and having like multiple career households, and like you're driving, you're grinding, you want to be successful in absolutely everything. That's parenting, that's being a husband or a wife, that's being the best in your career, running a business, being an individual contributor, physically, being able to just get out and walk, doing things physically to keep yourself healthy. Like all of those things seem overwhelming. So like a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. And the book, the hybrid book was, it's about leading it in 2020 when we all got locked away for a while, and when like companies had to send their people home.
That's a good way to put it. Locked away.
Yeah. They were locked away. And so everybody had to figure out how to work from home. And what we found, and the statistics say that like two of the biggest statistics that came out were mental health drastically declined and physical health drastically declined. Because people were just locking themselves away. They were working from home, and they didn't know how to really get up, move themselves, or really reach out to other people. So after the Marine Corps, and I this is just part of that holistically healthy life. And after 2020, I realized, man, I fell into that camp too. I was like, man, I'm
not doing good,
like mentally, physically.
For
sure. And Traci, being the amazing spouse that she is, like she was like, all right, we got to start something. We got to get up and move a little bit. And so we started this little workout group, and I was like, man, there's something to this. So because of that, I was like, okay, there's these pillars. You got to be in order to live a holistically healthy life and to have that work-life balance. We need to organize things. So how do we do that? So for me, I organize it into emotional health, mental health, physical health, spiritual health, and financial health. And when you can do all those things and you can plug those things into the calendar, because the calendar is your best friend when you're trying to have a work-life balance, and when you have your day started,
it's like a budget.
It's like a budget. You got to stick to it. If you don't stick to it, you're going to go over. You'll mental
spend too
economy.
Much time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mental economy is going to be spent elsewhere. So when you have those 5 pillars, you can look at your day and be like, okay, where am I spending my time doing these things? How am I fitting these into my regular workday when I do have meetings? I have quarterly business reviews. I have podcasts that we have to do. I have all these other things that I have to do. How am I taking care of this part of me? And what out of that other kind of busy or full day can I take off to make sure that I'm still maintaining these 5 pillars of health, and doing that within a window of time where 5 o'clock comes and I'm out. I'm at a soccer practice. I'm playing ball. I'm just being present with my family. Because again, like if all of that other stuff, all that busy stuff, that full stuff were taken away, I would still have Traci and the boys. And that has to be, and it is absolutely more than enough. So work-life balance, it's for me a little bit more life than work. But it's about utilizing the time you have when you are doing the work stuff to prioritize and make sure you're successful there so you can be successful elsewhere.
And it's not like you're speaking from a place of all this time. Like, it's not like you've lived where you have all this generous time in your life. You know, some people think, oh, someone can get their doctorate degree or write a book or coach their kids' soccer team because they have so much more time than I do. And that's just such a false belief. Does that make sense? Because I've seen how much you guys are doing, and you still did all of those things while doing the normal life, while working, while parenting and everything else. So I think that's truly inspiring to say, okay, like, this is a person who's still out on the ball field in the night doing the coaching probably, and spending time with your wife on the weekend. But how did you do that? What was it? Just really getting serious about your calendar?
It was getting very serious about the calendar, and it was also, you know, the kids. It was finding time. Like for me, it was early mornings. It was after the kids went to bed and Traci went to bed. It was writing. It was doing homework on a lunch break. It was the grind was really it was hard. The grind to get all that done. I mean, I finished my doctorate while I was still working, while we were still raising kids, doing practice, all that stuff. And it was one of the things that's very, very important when you are doing a lot of these things, is to be able to be on the same page with your spouse and your kids, to be able to, like, hey, I'm doing all these things. Is this okay? How are we going to be able to flex? So having that and that agreement between Traci and I, being like, hey, this is going to be a little bit of a stretch. Are we okay with this?
And what's the goal that we're reaching towards as a family? Is this on the other side?
Yes.
So it's like you can kind of make sacrifices And you do have to count the cost though.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of my big things is like everything costs you something, even if it's not money, because most people hear the word cost and they associate it with money. For us in our season, we see everything that costs us something as time. We're like, how much time is that going to cost us away from people we love or the calling we have or the project we're working on? And so, you know, there is a cost and a sacrifice, and you have to decide as a married person, especially, to make sure you're both in unity about that decision, that this is going to be some sacrificing, but what's on the other side? So what was like for you guys, what was on the other side? Like, is it the new business, the consulting group, where you're like, was that so exciting for you to say that's where we're headed?
It's the actualization of a dream. Like this passion, like the Lord's put this passion into me for helping create leaders that are saving lives. We'll put it that way. They're saving lives, and helping people to bring out their full potential. Like that's, again, I get goosebumps just thinking about like that work.
Yes.
Like that work to be able to.
It's so purposeful.
It is. And like I love that. And to be able to step into that, and you have to make a plan. Like we just talked about, you make a plan, you agree to that plan, and you make sacrifices as a family. It's not just and it's understanding that everybody's making the sacrifice. Relationships that I had with people, having coffees, being able to go out to lunch, those had to be put on hold. So a lot of things had to happen. But on the other side of this is really living your dream and being able to do what you want, what you've dreamed of doing for a long, long time, and what the Lord is, the giftings the Lord has given you, and it all kind of, and it's always a work in progress. It's never, we never reach that one thing. It's like,
right. And there's never a perfect schedule. You try one out for a while and you're like, how did that work? And then you have to recalibrate and say that flow was not an ideal flow. Like thinking that, you know, whatever was going to happen on Thursdays that you thought that would be a good map.
Yeah.
You have to reevaluate.
Yeah. And the travel piece too. Like I travel a lot, and it's just, and that's been a more recent thing the last couple of years that we've had to add in like that travel piece where I'm gone multiple days at a time. I'm in different countries, and coming back to the family, the core of what we're doing, and to understand, it goes back to that earlier agreement of like, this is what we were working for. This is, it's not just okay, we have a green light on the doctorate. We have a green light on this new business. We have a green light on this, that, we have a green light on this bigger goal, this dream that we want to accomplish. And Traci and I eventually are going to do this together.
Yeah.
If you didn't know that, babe, your resume is on my desk.
It's going to be a good day. It's no secret by now that Something New is a special place where we believe life is worth celebrating. We come here every day to make sure people feel loved, welcomed, and brought into an experience of a lifetime. You'll see friendly faces, gorgeous gowns, a well-lit showroom to highlight everyone's natural beauty, and strangers becoming friends. It's a wonderful thing to shop somewhere that listens to you and makes you feel like you're the only one that matters in this most beautiful moment of your life. We'd love to have you and your friends find your dress and become a part of the Something New family.
But
just waiting for the perfect moment.
Waiting for the resume review team to hit it up. But that's what this is all about. It's about actualizing the dream that we've agreed upon and put all the work in to do. And it's just, but you're right. Like this travel schedule that we're on, it's having to come back and be like, okay, we need to pivot. That wasn't the best. It was too much time away. Where can I take off time here? How much more time can I take off to be able to balance that back out? And
I don't know if you guys have done this, but we've kind of evaluated how many nights a year are we comfortable being away from the kids. And that could be separate or collected together, you know, because I do travel sometimes too for my work, and Jordan will stay back or vice versa. He'll go and I'll stay. And so something costs you something, right? So it's saying if I'm going to be away X amount of nights, then I'm going to probably have to trade time for that. Does that make sense? So if I'm going to pick up something, then I got to give away something else.
Yes, it's cost. I mean, everything, just like you said, everything costs time. If I'm going to spend time here, I'm not going to spend time here. If I'm going to spend energy here, I'm not going to spend energy here. I would really love to be like a part of like a men's fast pitch baseball team, but that I can't do that right now. It's because of all these other things. Like that would be something that would cost me. If I did one thing, I could not do the other.
And you'd really enjoy it, and it's not a bad thing, but it's not necessarily God's plan right now.
Exactly.
and you have to be in tune with that.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about this book because I loved the title. I just think of all my entrepreneur friends. It says A Guide for Successfully Leading On-Site and Remote Teams, because I don't think there's enough research and literature about how to be a leader when you have remote teams. And so, I mean, I have let's see, 3 or 4 remote positions. Some are here in town, some are not. They're not even in the same state. And yet we try to create such a team culture. And so those are obstacles that nobody has really trained on. So what would you say, hey, if you have a mixture of present and remote teams, like what are some quick wins that they could do to make sure that that's a good culture? You aren't sacrificing that long distance person doesn't feel connected.
Yeah, and you hit it right off the bat, the culture creation. That's the first thing that you have to be able to do. It's not going to look the same. Your remote team, your now hybrid or remote team is not going to look the same as a culture where you are completely on site. You guys are with each other every day. You can pop into their office or you can pop into it's just not going to look the same. So one, you have to accept that it's not going to look the same, and you have to adapt and stop trying to hold on to that idea that it's going to be, okay, we can create this culture and it's going to bleed into the remote workers as well, and it's all going to be great and hunky-dory and everybody's going to be fine. That's just not the way it's going to work. But at the same time, you have to be able to create a culture that is just that is you have that water cooler talk. You still have that. You're still able to check in with one another. You have those open door policies. So you have to let go of the being able to be physically present with everybody at all times, but you still have to recreate some of those in-person events as much as you can over a Zoom call or over an email. Now you can't do it over email. That's rough, but over a phone call. So being able to recreate that as much as you possibly can, but still letting go of like, this is not going to be the same. We can't hold that to the same expectation as a culture that we build, that like that you and Jordan have built with this, like with something new. It's just going to be different. So what the book did, I wrote it during 2020 when everybody got locked away. And you're right, the literature out there had nothing to do with leading hybrid remote teams. It was all about leading in-person
Just
teams.
Regular teams.
Yeah, leading teams.
Leadership and team. Yes.
Leading, here's my team. I can high-five them all on the way out the door, and that's what it was. But so what the book did is I translated all the leadership and kind of organizational change theory into how to lead hybrid remote teams. So we talk about, Kotter's 8 steps. We talk about all the different like organizational change theory and how to do that on remote teams. And some of the literature that's now coming out is just like, okay, now that we're now that this is becoming normal, like remote teams are becoming normal. And some of the executives that I work with have normalized this. Like, okay, we can close down real estate. We can save money.
Sell assets. And because honestly, the cost is so much cheaper. Yep. To support, like just, hey, let me buy out your office at your home.
Yep.
I'll just totally supply you with all you need. And you do that on scale, sell huge buildings, your overhead is down. I mean, it makes so much business sense for me, but I am concerned. What are we going to see 10 years from now, 15 years from now? I've already seen it from people that are close to me's workplaces that I don't think have the same overall belief in mission as they did when they were present.
Yeah. So
in person.
Yes. And it's super, like when you create culture, you start with mission and vision. When you're trying to create culture, you need to make sure everybody is understanding and buys into what the mission is. And then the vision is kind of how are you going to actualize that? How is the team going to be able to actualize that mission? So over time, when like you said, when those mission and visions get kind of stagnant and things change,
it turns into spreadsheets and behind your laptop in your room with your cat on your lap.
Yes, it does.
It's a different vibe.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I say in the book, and this is true, like hybrid and remote work is here to stay. However, we need to, as leaders and as coaches of leaders, highly encourage human connection. Again, like the studies again are coming, like the human connection element is so necessary. There's just something different when I can walk into a room, even if so say I've been on a team for 12 months. I've been on a team for a year. 11 months go by, and then I finally meet my boss of my team in person. We've been meeting over a screen for the last 11 months, but that 12th month, I finally go and I shake my boss's hand. I give my boss a hug. That feeling of like, oh my God, there's a human being that I actually know, and it's not just this screen that if you take away and I'm in my home office, I'm a crazy person talking into the ether. And the studies show that the human connection after that and the engagements after that, even in the remote environment, are way better.
Oh, I'm sure.
Just because of a one-time meeting with the human being that's on the other side of that screen.
Yeah.
So that's the big encouragement. Now that we're on the other side of this, everybody's free again to move. It's like, okay, get out there, meet your people as much as you can. If you are still remote and hybrid teams, if that's the business model that you've set forth, or that your company has set forth, or that you're operating in, just try to get out and meet as many of your teammates as possible, because the connection is going to lead to a culture that is just going to,
They're more bought in.
Yeah, they're more bought in. They know you as the leader. They know their team members. They know like they're a part of something. And that's the biggest thing with culture building in remote teams. They have to feel like they're a part of something.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's like, close my laptop. It's pointless to be here.
Yeah.
I think also, as the CEO or leader of the team, you can say, hey, we need to create budget around in-person gatherings, whether that's like quarterly, twice a year, whatever it takes, because I do think that your productivity increases, even though that's an expense. Like, in the long run, when you look at it from an over aerial view, you're going to see more results from saying, hey, like, we're going to invest in that one in-person thing because now our productivity is going to be better. So getting on a regularity and saying it from the onset, hey, you're joining this remote position. Yes, you live in another state. We're so glad that you are interested in this job. If you take it, we do require X amount of in-person events a year. Yes. Are you able to commit to that? Because just from the onset too, having that as a clear expectation, they don't even need to know why it's a value, because once they get there, they're going to realize, oh, this is why they require the in-person. This makes so much sense. But it's sad. But if you can stay on top of it, I hear you saying, it's like, if you can create a rhythm, if you can keep that personal connection going, you can have a hybrid situation where you work remote. But it is sad. I mean, I think especially very mission-driven companies, the ones that are not just about the bottom line.
So
those are the ones that
are the ones, absolutely. Yeah. Because when you're dealing with people, and it goes back to the reason why I love leadership so much, is it's about people. And when you are able to, and I tell this to some coaching clients and other people I work with, is like, if you can, you need to worry about your people and understand where your people are coming from, what makes them tick. And like, it's the catchphrase is kind of like, we need to rehumanize a dehumanized work culture, because that's what remote and hybrid work has become. Is we need to be able to rehumanize and talk to people and bring people out. And that's a great way. Like, okay, you just saved a bunch of money on your real estate cost benefit. Like, okay, put that money towards a travel budget to be able to get your people to a 3-day retreat. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing is like, it's really great to get out and meet your people, but it's not great if I go say, Mindy, you and I work together, and it's been 6 months since we've never met before. And then we sit down in a room like, okay. And we're like, okay, tell me about the latest spreadsheet. Tell me about what you've been doing the last 6 months. It's dehumanizing. Mm-hmm. If I say, hey, tell me about your family, I want to hear about everything about you. I want to hear about what you like to do. If you have that engagement rather than jumping into business. So if you build leaders, if you're building time in to get together with your people, also build time in to get to know them in a deeper way than just, what's your birthday? What do you like to do? So get to know your people when you are in person. And
I also want to add to that is not just the one-to-one, like the group think. So we have coaching clients too, and we have implemented in year 2 with our group. We have over 70 people from all over the world, and we've said, hey, we need to gather and have a retreat so that you can mastermind together. Yeah. It's not just about the one-to-one. There are other people in your same shoes doing the same thing you're doing, and there might be better ways to do it. And it's not just all dependent on me to come up with all the amazing creativity ideas. There's a lot of genius in the room. And so getting together in that room, I think, is also powerful.
That is the best way to generate ideas. The best way to make huge things happen is to get a bunch of people in a room and you brainstorm, and nobody's if someone's facilitating, and those kind of, so you have to have a facilitator,
yes,
but you can't have somebody like leading otherwise that you said groupthink. Otherwise the groupthink where one person is just going to believe what the leader's saying just because they're the leader, or what the group is saying, what the majority of the group is thinking just because it's the majority of the group. When you're able to break down those barriers, that's where you make huge change in your organizations and your people. That's when you come up with the ideas like the Apple, the Mac ideas, the
yeah. Have you ever
ideas.
Read that story of
yes.
how it's incredible?
Yeah, the brain trust that comes with all of that, and like that's how you change the world through what you're doing, through whatever product you have, whatever mission you have. That is how you're going to do it, and you have to also add to this. You have to bring other people in that don't look like you. the diversity of thought is also something that is so huge. If someone comes from a different background, the perspective that they bring into a conversation is so things you never would have thought of in your entire life, and different ways to think of things that you never would have thought of them in that way. So diversity in those brainstorming sessions is also so key.
So key. I want to hear really quick, Titanium Consulting Group. So what is that up to? Like, what are you up to?
So we've just kind of rebranded, and we are bringing in coaches from all different backgrounds. We have healthcare, we have government, we have military, we have public sector, private sector, ministry work, and it's a conglomerate of coaches that are going out, and we all believe in that same mission and vision that like we're here to rehumanize a dehumanized work culture, and that's on-site, remote, hybrid, whatever team that is. So we work with executives and executive teams and also organizations to be able to kind of break them down in a good way. Break them down is kind of that's a military word. I don't want to break anybody down, but we want to be able to break down what they are doing and help make things better. So we provide roadmaps. We work with the executive teams and also frontline management, and to be able to understand what their business looks like, where they want to go, and how they can get there. And it's all about just pulling out, coaching is all about just pulling out information from others that they already have within them, and understanding and empowering them to like, hey, yep, you already know how to do this. Here's some tools to be able to go do it, but you know how to do this, and giving them the kind of empowering them to be able to go do that. And so that's kind of that's what we're all about. It's
exciting.
It's super exciting. It's super fun too. And we have a bunch of, we talked about diversity a second ago. Like we have Navy SEALs, we have nurses, I have HR professionals, the gamut, it's all over the place.
But then you can be better at serving.
Yes.
You can match whatever their need might be.
And the diversity of thought too. If I have a medical CEO that comes in and says, I want a healthcare consultant, I'm like, oh yeah, well, let me have you talk to my ministry guy also to bring in a different perspective on leading. And so when we have that group of diverse backgrounds and people, like they can bring in a whole new perspective to a client, to an organization, to a company that they never would have thought of had they just had like 5 healthcare professionals coming and giving and consulting for them. Yeah.
And I've seen that in every industry I go to. I'm like, you are missing a huge part of this pie by not having, just even in the medical field, it's like sometimes the communication element, they've never been taught, but they understand the whole science and they want to communicate with all of their team in healthcare, but it's like, where's the communication process? Like, this is not correct. So anyways, I'm excited about the work you're doing. Where can people find out more besides probably your Instagram, right?
LinkedIn
is your best. Guy. You're a LinkedIn.
I'm a LinkedIn guy. That's my spot.
So Dr. Travis Hearne on LinkedIn.
Yeah. LinkedIn. You can go to drhearne.com. That's you'll find all the resources and stuff there about titanium and everything else. So I
love it. I'm excited about your book coming out, Through the Storm.
Me too.
Which is about, what would you say that's about?
So it's called Through the Storm, Lessons from Resilient Leaders. And what this does is it's broken into 2 sections. One because I don't know if you've heard about this, but the concept is the buffalo. The analogy is the buffalo. So the buffalo is the American bison, for those who are keeping score.
You're like,
technically the American bison is the only herd animal that when a storm comes over the horizon, it will grab its herd and it will charge straight through the storm instead of going around it or trying to run away from it. So the book, that's the whole foundation of the book. I talk about my leadership stories in Iraq and Afghanistan. I bring in other leaders from the business space, and they talk about storms that they've gone through, what they learned from them, and how they got through them. And so that's what the book is all about. It's about talking about these storms that are really messy, that leaders go through, and they walk us through the storm. They walk us through the storm. They walk us through how they got through the storm, and they walk us through what we learned, and we put those into action. We give action steps on how you as a leader can put these, lessons into action today.
We might need to have a second podcast.
I think so.
I might need you to walk us through some of those lessons.
I love it.
That would be really awesome, especially because you're local.
Yeah. I'll be here.
That would be great.
Yeah. It's coming out on November 10th. That's the Marine Corps birthday, so I had to throw that one in there too.
Oh, okay, awesome. Well, before we go, we have a tradition here where we get to hear your favorite drink. So, what's your favorite drink?
Oh my goodness, it's Spindrift. This lime Spindrift right here. This is just if Traci did not take the box away from me,
you could drink them all day long.
I would drink 24 pack of these all day
Which
long.
I just want to say something really quick about Traci. She is The reason why I think of you guys as like the real deal, there was a night, Friday night after church one time, this was years ago, and my kids were melting down. I was like, major struggle bus. You were not even in town. So she had all 3 of her boys, and she like started carrying, like grabbing by the armfuls, boys, like my boys, her boys, and they're just sobbing. And I'm like, who are you? And she's like, I'll help you to the car. And I was parked at the super farthest spot ever. And I just will never forget that night. It was like snowing, cold. Both of our husbands are gone. And I didn't even know her. And I was like, you are like the salt of the earth. Like, you are amazing. I'll never forget that. And from that moment on, I'm like, Traci in my book is like an 11 out of 10. Like, she is amazing.
She is the best. She's one of the best humans I've ever met in my entire life. And it's funny, the book goes through Traci's story from intern to chief technology officer. So,
really?
Yeah.
For where? For
hybrid.
For hybrid.
Hybrid.
Okay,
Yeah. So
I love it.
I had to throw her in there. She's in charge anyway. So
I love it. Okay, well, let's cheers to our Spindrift.
Cheers.
I love a good sparkling water.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the best flavor, I'm not going to lie. Well, you guys stay in touch with Dr. Travis Hearne because he's doing some great work. And definitely comment, subscribe, tell your friends about this episode because we'd love to bring you along in the journey and learning how to live a life worth celebrating. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the show, rate, review, and share with a friend. Also, follow the Something New Show on Instagram and Facebook. If you want a fuller experience, watch the show on YouTube to help you create a life worth celebrating.